Hello and welcome to Free Jacks in 5, a series of brief interviews where you get to know your favorite New England players. Free Jacks in 5 is brought to you by Arbella Insurance, the official home and auto insurance provider of the New England Free Jacks. I'm Dallen, Stanford, former US Eagle and current World Rugby commentator, and this episode we spend 5 minutes with Ewan Brumwell, one of the reinforcements that has arrived from overseas. Thanks for joining us, my man.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
I was trying to place the accent, so I can hear the Scots, I can hear the bit of the Kiwi, and there's some other flavors in there too, isn't there?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest. Yeah, I was born in San Diego. My parents met there. So mum's Scottish, my dad's Canadian. I was there for about a year, moved up to Alaska for a few years, and then all of a sudden was growing up in Scotland. When I was finished school, I ended up lucky enough. I got to go to Aussie for a year, play some rugby, and then after that, it was right. I need to start thinking about a job or study, whatever. So luckily enough, I could go study in New Zealand, and I've been there sort of ever since. Luckily. And now I found myself here. So it's been all over the place.
The journey continues. It's so great, isn't it, that the sport of rugby can take you all over. And I was fascinating reading a bit about your background. And maybe you can touch on for us, the differences playing rugby in Scotland when you were younger, and then, of course, in New Zealand with your famed All Blacks.
Yeah, so I guess my first year in New Zealand, I was in a place called Napier. So it's in Hawke's Bay. The weather's a lot better there than it is in Scotland for sure. A lot more running rugby and things like that, which was pretty cool to be a part of, especially sort of playing in the back three. Moved to Dunedin, which is a little bit more like home, the weather, but it's still a lot better than Scotland. So I guess that's probably one of the biggest differences really is the winter sport in Scotland. Like some of the days are pretty terrible. And so I think there's a bit of an emphasis on sort of being big and strong and set piece dominating, that sort of thing. And certainly the sort of impression I had, growing up with it. But then, yeah, come to New Zealand and on skill level, it's sort of, if you had a chance to do an extra session, people in New Zealand probably go out and play touch rugby and throw the ball around versus some people in Scotland would probably decide to go to the gym and get an extra pump on. So I guess that's maybe sort of an easy way to look at it.
Now, we've had Dougie Fife on before, and we know he's electric and fast. He wasn't able to catch the Loch Ness monster or even see it. Have you spotted it?
Oh yeah, not quite, but I have went looking for it. But didn't quite get there.
Let's talk a bit about your work as in strength and conditioning, what teams you've been involved in and how you've enjoyed that.
I consider myself very lucky to be working in an industry that I really enjoy. I suppose that's one thing my dad's always taught me is that make sure you enjoy what you do work-wise. It's not all about money or certain things that people chase. So I've been pretty lucky to work with some awesome teams. My current role is with the Tiger Rugby, so I'm leading the strength and conditioning program there. I've also worked for the Highlanders, sort of as an assistant and an intern, and then I was lucky enough to do the New Zealand Schools campaign for a couple of years. So I was pretty lucky again. I got to go to Australia twice on tour. Usually they do a year about, one in New Zealand, one in Australia. So got to tour over to Aussie twice, which was cool. And then obviously now being here as pretty lucky to be on the playing side of things as with the Free Jacks, but also sort of trying to offer some services as a consultant on the S&C side. So it's been pretty cool to be able to travel, as you said before, with rugby and things like that.
Is there a player that stands out that you've worked with in the New Zealand setup or the Super Rugby setup that you just thought, wow, this is a gifted player, they're going to go and do great things, and then they ended up representing the All Blacks?
Yeah, well, I suppose at the time he'd already been playing for the All Blacks, but Ben Smith was a bit of a legend, obviously in around Dunedin and being an Otago man. Obviously, with him playing in the All Blacks, didn't get to see him in the Otago jersey while I was there. But he was pretty incredible, just the way he goes about his work day to day.
Let's switch across to off field. Is there an embarrassing moment that you potentially have?
Not long before Ryan came over here to obviously coach Free Jacks, I went surfing with him and I was borrowing his board. So where we surf, there's the stairs to get out of the water. Tide was a little bit high, so we tried to quickly sneak out. He managed to get through, but I slipped on a rock. Fell over, got washed up by the stairs, and his board went flying around and knocked all over the place. So, I had to get his board repaired for him. I think it would cost me a little bit of money there, $150 or something. So, it was a bit embarrassing. There was people up on the Esplanade looking at me getting washed up by this wave. So, that wasn't a great experience.
You almost lost your contract there early on,
Yeah.
Are there three famous people that are living or may have passed that you would have liked to have met?
For me, growing up in the UK, and Johnny Wilkinson was a massive figure in rugby. So I used to play number 10 when I was younger growing up, and he was always sort of my idol. So I think he would be pretty cool to have a chat with over dinner or whatever. And I guess going back to the surfing, probably someone like Kelly Slater would be cool to meet him and get a few tips on how I can surf a bit better, maybe. And then I guess I, again, tried to play guitar when I was younger too. Didn't really carry that on too much. Rugby takes over now, but maybe Slash from Guns N' Roses, he was sort of someone was pretty incredible on the guitar with his solos and things like that. So maybe those three would have to be up there with people I'd like to meet.
That's a great diverse mix. Final question for you then. How have you found the level of play in Major League Rugby since you've been here?
For me, it's the highest level of rugby I've played. I've played a lot of club rugby in New Zealand, obviously, and a few sort of rep things in Scotland. But this is, by far sort of the highest level I played. So it's pretty cool for me to, as I said, be on a sort of professional side of it as a player and get some insights on how the boys go day to day on those things. So it's going to help me in my S&C coaching as well, I would think, in the future. But it's certainly just going to grow and get bigger and bigger. I can't believe the amount of fans we have on the weekend, especially on Sunday there with the good weather. They're crazy, and it's awesome to hear them from the side. Obviously on the field, they're all going mental. So it's great to see there's a bit of support around it, and it's definitely a growing game in the States. So it's only going to get better. Awesome.
Well, Ewan, I want to thank you for joining us on Free Jacks in 5, brought to you by Arbella Insurance, the official home and auto insurance provider of the New England Free Jacks. Fans can make sure they bring their families, bring their friends. They experience some of the best days out watching professional rugby at Free Jack Stadium in Weymouth, Massachusetts. They can visit freejacks.com to get their tickets for the remaining home matches in 2021. As we say here, let's ride.
Let's ride.